Okay, let's dive in. If you're just joining us, here's how this works. You give us your stack of sources, could be articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and, well, we go through it together.
Yeah, we try to pull out the most important bits, the core insights.
Get you up to speed fast, maybe find some surprising things along the way.
And our goal for this deep dive, it's really to unpack the news and analysis you shared, focusing right in on the crypto space. What's happening basically today, June 7th, 2025.
And crucially, based only on the material you actually provided us.
Exactly.
Now, going through your sources, one title really jumped out: The Bitcoin Retiree's Dilemma. Sell or borrow? I mean, that's a big question,
Right,
right?
it really is a heavy one.
And while the actual details explaining that dilemma weren't in the content snippets you sent over, the rest of the stuff you provided, it gives us a fantastic snapshot.
A snapshot of the market environment on this specific day,
Yeah.
which is, really relevant context for anyone facing that kind of question.
Right. It's not just about one person's situation. It's about the whole world their Bitcoin exists in.
Precisely. So this collection we have, it touches on macro news, corporate strategy, some very specific trades, even a bit of tech news. It all paints a picture.
Yeah, it does. It shows the landscape someone might be looking at. So, okay, let's unpack this stack.
It's interesting how these pieces, which might seem unrelated at first glance, actually give you a clearer sense of the market's pulse when you put them together.
Totally agree. So where do we start? Maybe the big picture. Your sources mentioned that Friday saw a wave of optimism in global markets. Why?
It points to the latest U.S. jobs report.
Oh, okay.
The one for May, it showed 139,000 jobs were added. And the key thing here is analysts were expecting something closer to 125,000.
So 139K beat expectations. That usually gets markets moving.
Exactly. And unemployment held steady at 4.2%, which, signals some underlying economic health.
And your source draws a direct line from that positive data to crypto, saying it led to whales go all in on BTC calls.
Yeah, that's a crucial connection they're making. Whales, we're talking big holders, right? The major players. And going all in on BTC calls means they're placing large, often leveraged bets that Bitcoin's price is going to go up significantly.
Call options. Remind us quickly.
Sure, they're financial contracts giving you the right but not the obligation to buy an asset, like Bitcoin, at a set price later on. If the actual price goes above that set price, you profit. The higher it goes, the more you can make, especially if you use leverage.
Got it. So this source suggests good economic news is making the big crypto players feel pretty bullish.
Very bullish, yeah. Enough to make significant bets on price increases.
Okay, so that's the sort of optimistic macro backdrop. What else? What's happening on the corporate side of things? Your sources mention a pretty interesting acquisition, Greg Kidd and No Labs.
Yes, Greg Kidd is acquiring a controlling stake in No Labs. And the interesting part, he's using both Bitcoin and cash to do it.
Bitcoin and cash. And Kidd is expected to become CEO and chairman.
That's right. And this leads directly to the next point in your source material. No Labs is adopting a pretty bold new treasury strategy.
Bold is one word for it. The source says they plan to hold 82% of their treasury in Bitcoin.
82%. Yeah, for a company that isn't, a native crypto company, putting over 4/5 of your corporate assets into Bitcoin, that's a massive statement.
82%. I
Right.
mean, that number just leaps out. What does that level of allocation even signal, it feels like?
Yeah.
Like extreme conviction in Bitcoin long term. Maybe as a hedge or...
It certainly suggests a very high degree of conviction, absolutely. But it also, introduces significant volatility onto their balance sheet. It definitely raises questions, perhaps for you listening, about what kind of risk appetite that shows.
And whether other companies might start looking at similar, maybe less extreme, but still significant Bitcoin treasury strategies.
It could be a trend to watch.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, but still within the sort of corporate crypto world, your sources also flagged some news from Coinbase.
Right. The CEO, Brian Armstrong, apparently addressed a long-standing issue: account freezing problems, users getting locked out.
Ah, yeah, that's always a friction point. And he announced progress.
Pretty significant progress, according to the source, claiming an 82% reduction in those specific issues.
82% again. Another big specific number today.
It is. It's a metric obviously chosen to show real improvement in, user experience and how they operate. Addressing these things, and the source mentions pledging transparency, that's just vital for a platform like Coinbase.
Absolutely, for building and keeping trust.
Yeah.
Especially with all the assets they handle.
It's a sign of the industry needing to mature, addressing these operational headaches.
So, okay, we've got macro optimism feeding whale bets, Bold corporate moves into Bitcoin, a major exchange improving trust. What about, like, moves between companies in this space?
Your sources detail a bit of friction there, actually, between the asset manager Arca and Circle, the stablecoin issuer.
Friction, what happened?
Well, Arca's CIO, Jeff Dorman, apparently voiced some strong criticism about how Circle handled its IPO allocation process.
Ah, okay. Disagreements over who gets what in the IPO. And this wasn't just talk.
No, it led to action. Arca is now divesting all of its shares in Circle because of this dispute.
Wow, completely pulling out.
Completely. It just highlights that even, established players in this space can have pretty serious disagreements. An IPO allocation issue causing a firm like Arca to divest entirely from Circle is, well, it's notable.
And the source mentioned potential ripple effects.
Yes, specifically questioning what it might mean for USDC, Circle's stablecoin. It points to those internal dynamics and potential breaking points within the industry's plumbing, so to speak.
Okay, interesting. So that covers some institutional stuff. Now,
Yeah.
let's get down to a really specific trade highlighted in your sources. Something that kind of captures the other side of the coin, the raw volatility. Involves someone named Ogle.
Yes, Ogle. The source mentions Ogle making a $1 million short trade against the Trump MP token. This was on the hyperliquid platform.
$1 million short. So betting the price of Trumpy goes down. And using leverage.
Significant leverage, 10x, the source says.
10 times leverage on $1 million. Okay.
Yeah, so they're borrowing to amplify potential profits if the price drops, but that also massively amplifies the risk if it goes the wrong way. And the source points out a very specific danger zone. Ogle faces liquidation, losing the position entirely if Trump payee hits $12.49.
And the source implied the price was getting kind of close to that liquidation level.
It suggested the price was near that zone, making it a high-stakes situation at the time the piece was written.
Wow. Okay, so that single trade, even though it's just one example, it really paints a picture of the high risk, high leverage, potentially very fast moving trading that's also happening. A real contrast to the long-term no labs treasury decision.
It absolutely underscores that dual nature, doesn't it? You've got long-term strategic corporate plays on one side, and then these incredibly volatile, highly leveraged short-term bets on the other, all happening at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and finally, your stack included one more piece, a major tech announcement. Not directly crypto, but relevant to the environment.
That's right. Google announced a preview of its enhanced Gemini 2.5 Pro AI model,
Calling it their most intelligent model so far.
which is, a significant step in AI and large language models. And while maybe the direct crypto link isn't immediately obvious,
Right, it's not Bitcoin news per se.
no, but advances like this shape the tools developers have, the potential capabilities of all sorts of platforms, including crypto ones eventually, and just the overall digital world crypto lives in.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the tech landscape itself is constantly shifting, rapidly evolving underneath everything else. Innovations in AI could impact analysis, trading tools, platform security,
Right.
all sorts of things.
Exactly. It's another piece of the complex puzzle that defines the current moment.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We started by mentioning that title you saw, The Bitcoin Retiree's Dilemma, Sell or Borrow. And while we didn't get the specifics of that dilemma from your sources, looking at this collection of news from June 7th, 2025, it really does give us a sense of the landscape, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. We've seen hints of market optimism fueled by good economic data, potentially pushing big players towards bullish bets.
We saw that really aggressive corporate adoption of Bitcoin as a core treasury asset by no labs.
We saw a major platform, Coinbase, making strides on user trust by tackling account freezing.
We saw strategic disputes, like Arca ditching Circle shares over IPO allocations.
And we definitely saw the sharp end of volatility with that high-leverage Trump P short trade example. Plus, the backdrop of ongoing AI advancement with Gemini.
So considering this whole mix, you've got positive macro signs, evolving crypto strategies, platforms maturing but still facing challenges, industry players making strategic moves, and this undercurrent of extreme volatility highlighted by individual trades. How might all that influence someone holding significant Bitcoin, maybe nearing retirement, trying to decide between selling it outright or perhaps borrowing against it?
It paints a really complex picture, doesn't it? Where just looking at the price isn't enough. You almost have to understand these broader forces at play.
So thinking about that potential retiree, or just you listening, trying to make sense of it all, what other pieces of information, maybe specific to your sources or your situation, would you need to feel truly informed to make a major decision like that in this kind of environment?
That feels like the right question to leave things on. A lot to consider.
It really does. Well, thank you for providing the sources that let us have this deep dive today.